Hello, my name's Mary English and I'm a professional astrologer working in private practice in the UK, but I'm also a palmist and I've been reading palms since I was 18. And I taught myself, and this is the book that I taught myself with. You think, oh, Joe, what a weird thing to do, teach yourself at 18. Well, I started reading books about mystical and wonderful stuff when I was younger than that, probably about 14, but I didn't really get into it too seriously until I was 18. And I was in between jobs, retailing jobs, and I decided I was going to be a psychic. And my first boyfriend was quite encouraging and made me a little business card, and I set up my practice and I taught myself. Anyway, this is the book. So this is Cairo's Palmistry for All. Now, it was a chap called Cairo who was actually a Scorpio, if I remember rightly. And that wasn't his real name. He was sort of Count Lord Mountbatten's somebody or other is his real name. But anyway, he called himself Cairo. And this book is probably the best, and it's ever so old. I paid £10 for it millions of years ago, but it was printed in 1894, is that right? 8th printing, 62nd thousand. Okay, they had a lot of copies printed, but this one, 1894, shows something or other. I don't know if that was when it was printed, but that's when one of the charts, handprints he'd got in there. Anyway, I'm waffling. I keep getting told I mustn't waffle. So if what we're going to be covering in the next week is an introduction. I can't tell you everything because I should have to charge you money. We're going to do easy things. And one of the things, and I won't do that today, I'm going to do that in the next lesson, is how to take handprints, because actually we don't need to do handprints at the moment because A, you probably won't be able to get the equipment to do it, and B, we're going to be looking at a chart. God, I'm going to stop using the word chart. We're going to be looking at hand shapes. Now, I've included below this video a picture, and this is the picture, okay, and it tells you the names of the fingers, so they're named after planets: Jupiter, Saturn, Apollo and Mercury, and I will explain those as we come to it. But today I just want to discuss one part of the hand. For most people have this part of the hand, and it's the thumb. Now, on the little picture, you'll see, and this is a real set of hands, by the way. Do you know, I cannot remember. Have I gotten there? Oh yes, this was a chappie called Jonathan Keith Joffe, and I've got his date of birth. I think it was looks like the 3rd of the 9th, 1956. Who is he? I don't know. But this I took these prints a long time ago. This is in the 80s. Anyway. The thumb is divided into will and logic. So we've all got thumbs, so let's talk about thumbs. So what the thumb's all about. So in the palmistry, the thumb represents your will and your logic, because if you sort of imagine, like, you know, you need to be able to press on something, you need to give something some force, you will use your thumb a lot. So either because you're making a fist or because you're pressing on something, you're less likely to maybe press with your index finger. It hasn't got as much strength as your thumb. Yeah. And so in palmistry, the strength of your thumb is very important, because in palmistry we view it as being the will. Will I, won't I, do I, don't I, but how much physical will and also mental will do I have? So you need to look at your thumb and you need to think about how flexible the tip of it is, because the first phalange, they're called phalanges, isn't that nice? The first phalange is about logic. So you know those ones that are extra logical, they're going to have massively long first phalanges, and then when we get to the joint and we get to the bit at the end here, this is the bit I'm talking about now, that's the will bit. Now, I've read for so many people, and I hope you haven't got it, but if you have, if you can flex the tip of your thumb and you can bend it right over, I can talk you into anything. I could sell you something that you might not even want. I used to work in sales, but I could flog stuff to you. So I do pay attention to people's hands when I'm reading for them, because the thumb, yeah, the more flexible it is, the more you're going to get persuaded by other people. Now, the reason this happens, people have those bendy thumbs, is that they're more concerned about pleasing someone else than they are about pleasing themselves. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, the selfish scale, I want to look after me first. Yes, I do work with clients and I'm interested in helping them, but unless I'm looking after myself, I can't do that. So my thumb is pretty strong. You're not going to get it to flex anywhere. In fact, I'm not flexible at all. I can just about touch my toes and that's it. But my thumb, definitely, I cannot flex it. Now, certain cultures and certain ends of the world, more people are born with very, very flexible hands and fingers. So it can be a cultural thing. It can be because of the country or the part of the world that you come from that it's more likely to be flexible. But that's because in other cultures, not the Western culture, other cultures, they think of we collectively as humanity, whilst in the West, we're very much the individual. It's I this, I that, I the other. So do keep that in mind, because I don't know where you're listening to me from. But for the purposes of this first lesson, how flexible your thumb is how easily you can be persuaded, and that your own will, your inner will, is going to be diminished by somebody else's needs. Okay, so thumb is will. And because I'm not discussing too much today, it's just we're going to start with that. The other thing is to recognise is how does somebody use their hands. Okay, so I can quite a lot gesticulate, and I might not. But one thing you can notice for if someone is very, very, let's go on to 10, stressed, they will hide their thumbs like this. Okay, they'll do that. So there's the thumb and the other hand like that. So if you see someone, okay, and they're sitting in an audience or whatever, and you see them hide their thumbs, they're under a lot of stress. Now, if you just do that yourself, you're just relaxing and you're holding your thumbs, because most people don't. They tend to put their fingers together or they rest their hands like that, but they don't cover their thumbs up. This is somebody that's been completely disempowered. Okay, so think about yourself. You're in lockdown. I mean, this series of little videos I'm making is because of lockdown. I wouldn't bother doing it because nobody would flipping have the time to sit here and while I yak. But if you see someone and they are holding their thumbs, they're covering their thumbs, there's not a lot of thumb going on, then you know they're feeling totally their will. They have lost their will. So people that are in prison, people don't do that 24/7 in prison, but people that are worried about that, or they're in a relationship where they're disempowered by their partner and they're regularly beaten by them or something, they'll have children whose parents are pretty nice, will do this. Yeah, so have a look around and start over this week. So I'm only doing it for a week. It's one little session every day. Start paying attention to how people are using their hands, because they will tell you so much about the person. The awful thing is when you meet me, I'm glancing at your hands. Okay, I'll look at your face and all this, but your hands, to me, because I've learned so much about palmistry and how people use their hands, when someone does that, because in a reading, if I'm reading, I've also included a photograph of me doing a big event, seeing loads of people in a location in one day. That's a bit tiring, but when people do this and they put their hands out to you, the way that they put their hands out tells me a lot about them. Yeah, so if you're coming for a reading with me and you come to the stall or wherever it is I'm doing it, not that I do that anymore, but when I did, and if you put your hands like this and you've got your fingers really, really close together like that, okay, you're Mrs. Secretive or Mr. Secretive. You don't want to tell me anything. But if you come up to me and you go da-da like that, and you've got your fingers wide apart like that, you're going to tell me everything. I probably don't have to tell you anything. You're going to tell it all to me. But when I see clients and they put their hands out, tell me something, and they've also got their thumbs sort of held in like this. If they put their fingers close together, that's like is that expression, playing their cards really close to their chest. Yeah? So fingers close together. So how do people, so pay attention to how people use their hands. Now, on television it's slightly different, because people, when they're actors, that's assuming they're actors, if they're actors, they're going to have had some coaching about how to use their hands or not, especially TV presenters, they have all the training for that. But when they're interviewing members of the public or they're talking to them, how they use their hands is important. Yeah. So today, thumbs. Flexible, more flexible it is, more likely to get talked into things by other people because you want them to be happy because you're not so good at being happy to yourself or looking after you. The other thing I sometimes see is it doesn't happen with men so much. This is another girl thing. They're wearing a ring on their thumb. So if you're listening to this now, and you've got a ring, you're like, I'm going to ask you the question, who are you feeling disempowered by? You know, why are you feeling, how long have you been wearing that ring for? Because again, there's the will part of the hand, you've got a ring on it. There's something about your not being able to put your will into action, to be able to act it out, you're not being able to make it happen, that type of stuff. Yeah, you're disempowered because it's a very, very powerful part of the hand, the thumbs. Okay, you're not going to think about thumbs in the same way now that I've been chatting to you. So ring on there, it's like, why are you wearing that ring? Is it purely for fashion? It isn't, because wearing rings is such a subconscious thing. I know marriage is this finger, yeah, but people wear rings on other fingers for other reasons. We are going to cover all the fingers, what they mean, but today's just the thumb. Because we start easy, yeah. And also the other thing we need to be thinking about is the shape of someone's hand. So if they hold the hands, you know, how long are the fingers? All of these things we're going to be covering, yeah. So any questions today, stick them in the comments box below. Let me know your questions. I'll be reading them later. I've got to go out now, take the doggy for another walk around the block, so I'll come back and read them later. But thumb, will. Can you, can't you, will you, won't you? Hope you have a fab day. You're learning palmistry with Mary. My name's Mary English. You can find me at www.maryenglish.com, maryenglish.co.uk. If you want to have an astrological reading, it's ukastrologer.co.uk. And I cover palmistry in a psychic reading. That's a face-to-face session, but since we're COVID-19 now and we're all locked in, I will take your hands as a scan. So you'd have to stick your hands in a scanner. You can take a photograph of your hands, but I need to see both sides. I need to see your thumb, and I also need to see your fingerprints, like your thumbprints, yeah. And I'll demonstrate to you tomorrow how to take a correct set of handprints. Oh, it gets so technical tomorrow, okay? So I'll catch you later. Bye-bye now.